It's Liberation Day, folks.
Tariffs on imported products are taxes paid by American businesses. Those costs are then passed along to consumers in the form of higher prices on everything from groceries and electronics to cars and clothes. The president insists his tariffs will ultimately boost the economy and encourage manufacturing in the U.S., but it could take years to ramp up production on American soil. The message from the White House:
yes, of course it will take years to ramp up production. And of course there will be growing pains. The problem is the guy that is implementing this is not pro-labor. And therefore, I don't even know what reason he's implementing this for to begin with. It just doesn't make any sense. I suspect he backtracks from the tariff stuff eventually.
Have faith.
You should trust what this president did for you in his first term. He effectively utilized tariffs while driving down inflation.
But experts have concluded the tariffs during Trump's first term drove prices up. Consumers now rattled and racing to make big purchases like cars before the tariffs hit.
This weekend alone, I think we sold and delivered probably about 40 cars, which is 20-30% above.
Yeah, what's funny about this also is that it has led to a short-term boost. Now, obviously, car prices are immediately going to go up. Ironically enough, it's going to go up regardless because of the tariffs, even if their inventory is not diminishing. Like a big chunk of the inventory that they have so far pre-tariffs, they're going to burn out of. But in that process, these guys are going to take advantage of the commotion. They're going to take advantage of the chaos. They're going to pump those numbers to the best of their ability. That's the other side of this, because no one, and I mean no one, cares about their fellow neighbors, okay? They only care about this. So it's already, it will have an inflationary effect even before the tariffs are implemented.
Trump is set to roll out a wave of tariffs to advance America First's economic agenda.
One of those big investment firms says there's a 35% chance of a recession now.
I did, Steve. Goldman Sachs, they raised it up to 35%. It was like 15-20% earlier because of the tariffs. You'll have to watch the markets for the opening bell.
Lots to talk about. Yeah. Lucas, thank you very much. He mentioned we got to watch the markets. Originally, this announcement was supposed to be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the Rose Garden. But then they moved it back smartly because whatever is announced is going to impact the market.
Smartly? Dog, if your announcement is supposed to impact the market in a negative fashion, that is an indefensible move that you are, of course, trying to defend. That's so funny. Dude, he's like, no, you don't understand. This is actually a brilliant move because the decision is dog shit. And therefore, it's good that they're doing it after the markets close. Okay, so what happens when the markets open tomorrow? Masterful gambit, sir. You will deliver a stay of execution for the markets for a total of what, 12 hours? Great.
What Wall Street hopes is there is some clarity, because right now businesses, they can't plan because they don't know, is it going to be drips, drabs? They're going to announce something today, something else next week.
Yeah, I want to hear from the pro-Trump gamers when they have to pay like $100 for fucking Mario Kart. It's going to be awesome. That's what I want. That's what I want to know. Pro-Trump gamers, are you enjoying the show? I hope you have your popcorn, because he's not making titties larger in video games.
These are about the size of William McKinley's, where he raised taxes on imports 50% in the 1890s. And it is the template President Trump has went with.
Yeah, 1890. Famously, a really good time for the American economy. Please don't look at what happened after. Famously, the period between 1890 and like 1920 is a time that Americans know as one of the best times for America.
I think President Trump would tell a lot of these companies, if not countries, tariffs are not his choice, they're your choice. If you don't want these tariffs, then start building more factories here, expanding your facility capacity, investing more in American workers, American innovation.
Right, and that's what we've heard from the administration, and they're putting all their eggs in that basket.
Okay, company builds an American manufacturing hub, invests a lot of money. The goods that are necessary for industrial output are still coming from foreign nations. What do you do in that situation? It's still going to be more costly. This is the problem with the universal tariffs regime that Donald Trump is implementing. That's the issue. You say it sounds like extortion. Fine. Sure. I don't have an issue with extorting capital owners to force them to bring back manufacturing to the United States of America. I don't have an issue with that at all. It is hilarious to me that Donald Trump is doing some of the fantasies of the left as well here. The notion that you can just like bully capital owners to bring back manufacturing to the United States of America. If he was successful in his implementation, that is literally what I would want. Donald Trump undermining U.S. aid. Donald Trump shutting down Voice of America. Like, what are we doing?
We're coming on the air for what will likely be another defining moment in President Trump's second term. Just moments from now, the president is expected to unveil his sweeping tariff plan, which has been raising economic anxiety here in the U.S. and around the world. You can see the president right there emerging in the Rose Garden. In what's designed today to be a major event at the White House, the president is expected to unveil these new tariffs targeting many of America's trade partners. The White House has said the new tariffs will take effect immediately. The administration has given no real indication about the scope of the tariffs before this moment, percentages or the countries being targeted. Just this morning, a senior administration official telling ABC News, quote, "It's still all very fluid." It's believed to be an aggressive plan here, which will include tariffs on some of America's closest allies.
Thank you very much.
Let's listen to the president.
Thank you. Nice crowd. What a good-looking group of people. Well, we have some very, very good news today, and a lot of good things are happening for our country. Please sit down. My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. Waiting for a long time. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. We're going to make it wealthy, good and wealthy. For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, and plundered by nations near and far. Both
I want one of those like Groyper core videos of Trump talking about how there's gonna be so much winning. You will say, "Please, sir, no, not enough winning." As like, and then like HVAC business owners like crying.
Leaders have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. We had an American dream that you don't hear so much about. You did 4 years ago.
About it any longer.
And you are now, but
where
you
is
don't
it?
Too often, and for many years
Where
and decades
is the dream
even, you didn't
they
hear
say?
too much
Hold on,
about.
I gotta see what Asma's chat is
Our
doing
country
here.
and its
We gotta
taxpayers
see
have
it.
been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen.
Base Trump. Pump Ethereum, please.
In a few moments, I will sign a historic
Do you want Trump to
executive order
liberate you? Yes, Daddy, Daddy,
instituting
no.
reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal. That means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple. Can't get any simpler than that. This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history. It's our declaration of economic independence. Many of the members.
The Macy said half of his chat is European, which makes it even funnier. I know. They get the worst out of this as well.
Toyota sells 1 million foreign-made automobiles into the United States, and General Motors sells almost none. Ford sells very little. None of our companies are allowed to go into other countries. And I say that friend and foe. And in many cases, the friend is worse than the foe in terms of trade. But such horrendous imbalances have devastated our industrial base and put our national security at risk. I don't blame these
Every
other
word
countries
is a lie.
at all
Wait
for
a
this
minute.
calamity. I blame former
There's
presidents
anti-Trump
and past
people
leaders
in
who weren't doing their
Asmigo's
job.
audience.
They let it happen.
Why is he rambling about
And they let
VATs?
it
Does he even
happen
know
to
what a
an
VAT
extent that
tax
nobody
is?
can even believe.
Imagine
That's why,
supporting and
effective at
believing this
midnight,
idiot.
we will impose a
What is
25%
happening?
tariff on all foreign-made automobiles.
Our words in the chat don't understand how economics work. Omega law.
Thank you.
But tariffs and VAT
Brian,
are paid
I'd
by
like
the
to
end
have you come
consumer.
up here
What is
for a
happening?
second, okay? I just see him sitting. He's been a fan of ours, and he understands this business a lot better than the economists, a lot better than anybody. Brian, say a few words, please, would you? Thank you, Mr. Thank you. It's a great honor to have you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I grew up just north of Detroit, Michigan, in Macomb County, known as the home of the Reagan Democrats. My first vote for president was for Ronald Reagan. I thought that was going to be the best president I ever saw in my lifetime until Donald J. Trump came along.
You're a fucking idiot. You can wear all the labor union shit all you want. You voted for Ronald Reagan, you dumb.
Plant after plant after plant in Detroit and in the Metro Detroit area close. There are now plants sitting idle. There are now plants that are underutilized. And Donald Trump's policies are going to bring product back into those underutilized plants.
These people are
There's
so
going to be
stupid.
new investment. There's going to be new plants built. And the UAW members, and I brought 20 of them with me, they're sitting right over here. We support Donald Trump's policies on tariffs 100%. So, Mr. President, we can't thank you enough. And in 6 months or a year, we're going to begin to see the benefits. I can't wait to see what's happening 3 or 4 years down the road. Thank you, Mr. President.
What a great guy. He got it right from the beginning. He got it before almost anybody else. This group over there, they got it too.
As far as tariffs and boosting American manufacturing goes, there is a validity for UAW to be in support of some of these tariffs. But saying like, oh, I love Ronald Reagan, you're a moron.
But we will charge them approximately half of what they are and have been charging us. So the tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that, yes, but it would have been tough for a lot of countries. We didn't want to do that. I'd like to see the chart if you have it. Could you bring it up, Howard? This is our great Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick. Thanks, Howard. So if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers.
He loves this.
67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So it's 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset?
In smaller font,
They will
including
be, because
currency
we never charge
manipulation.
anybody anything. But now we're going to
Including
charge.
currency manipulation and trade barriers. So funny.
Very tough, very, very tough trade.
You can just put any number you want on there once you add those.
European Union, very friendly.
Once
They
you
rip us
add
off.
that
So
as a
sad to
reasoning,
see. It's so
everything is a
pathetic.
tariff.
39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right? We were everything. We had all of it.
We had all
now
of
we
it.
have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming
Taiwan.
in. We're going to end up with
Taiwan getting
almost
slapped with
40%. Lee
fat
Zeldin's
tariffs.
working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei, of one of the great companies of the world, actually. They're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the
Amazing.
world, maybe the biggest for that. But 64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan.
He's out of his mind.
Very, very tough. Great people.
Hey, yo!
And again, I don't blame the people for doing it. I think they're very smart in doing it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office right over there. They would
The
charge us
stock market is immediately
46% and much
tanking?
higher for certain items like cars.
I mean, look,
little
he
items like
expertly
cars.
is doing this after
46%,
in after
we're
hours.
charging them 24%. South Africa, 60%, 30%.
Guess when he
And they've
brought
got
out the
some
chart?
bad things going on in South Africa. You know, we're paying
What do you
them
mean?
billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it. I brought a hat just in case it got too windy, but here, would anybody like a hat? I'm not giving it to a cabinet. I'm giving it to the auto workers. Come
I
on.
caught it. I caught it, Mr. President. Make the
deserve it
treat
more than our
rat
cabinet.
scream, Mr. President.
Our cabinet has plenty of hats. But you see the numbers. The numbers are so disproportionate. They're so unfair. At the same time, we will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. You notice that on the chart?
Let me see where this was made.
That'll be on other countries to help rebuild our economy and to prevent cheating.
It doesn't
we're
say
gonna
where this hat
have a
was made,
minimum of
Mr.
cheating,
President.
And we're going to be very severe on the people that.
Doesn't have a tag on it. Don't know where it was made, but I think I can suspect.
And then shortly thereafter, it looked like I was going to win, and the fake news was saying, oh, no, don't do this. What they don't know is if I didn't win, they would have really been in trouble because nobody wants to read them anyway. But I tell you what, when it looked like I was going to win, I announced that I was going to be doing exactly what we're talking about today. Great consistency, actually, because I've been talking about it for 40 years.
What do you say?
Because I saw what was happening
What do
40
you
years
say to
ago. If you
all
look
of
at my old
this?
speeches when I was young, very handsome, because he had a very special relationship
I'm
with
in
China.
private equity. We just
You know
passed
what the
correction territory
relationship
and are
was?
now strongly in
He had a
recession
special
territory in the
rela-
market.
But the numbers were so big.
What do you mean,
The
dude?
number-
What recession? He's building factories tomorrow. It takes only a couple weeks, dude. And then to hire all of the labor after also gutting half of the labor force in the country with these insane decisions of, instead of documenting them, enforcing this rigid immigration agenda. I'm sure things will be fine. It takes like what, a couple days to build a factory and then hire and train a competent labor force. What do you mean? It's fine.
Monumental win. A lot of bad things happened. How about allowing millions and millions
Stop
and millions
coming.
of people to pour into our country with open
We're
borders?
putting a tariff on cum.
Where the
You will never
it's so
be able to
sad
jerk
see
off
even
ever
now.
again.
And I see
No
our
more
Secretary
coming.
of
Last term, I had a pandemic. Now you're going to have a pandemic.
judges that
Come
don't want them to
tax.
go out. They want Tren de Aragua, and they want MS-13, the most vicious gangs ever. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Absolute killer gangs. They kill people. They don't even think about it. And we put them out, and we have judges now, radical left judges that want
You're going to say, please, sir,
They don't
I
want
want
them
to
to go out.
come.
They want them to even be brought
I'm going to
back.
tell
Let's
you,
bring them
no
back.
more coming.
You've
You
done a
will never
fantastic
come
job, and
again.
please thank everybody. We're approaching our 100th day as president and have been given credit by a lot of people, actually, even some of the fake news. Can you believe it? Which in this case, hopefully,
they'll
isn't
definitely
fake,
be giving you credit for
having
this.
done more in that time than
They'll
any other
definitely be crediting you for what's going on
in the
now.
history of our
Trust
country
me.
in the first 100 days. I think we've had an amazing in terms of what we've done, what we've gotten accomplished. I'd like to see if we can get that war ended and another war from not starting in the Middle East.
Yeah,
But
I'm
they're
noticing a lack of
human beings.
Elon
They're
being
from Russia,
mentioned in
they're
this
from
speech.
Ukraine in this period.
You guys notice
Most
that
of
too?
them get it
I wonder what
stopped.
happened.
This will be a very big moment. I think you're going to remember today. It's going to be a free nation that we're dealing with. We're going to have a very free and beautiful nation. It's going to be Liberation Day in America, and it's going to be a day that hopefully you're going to look back in years to come and you're going to say, you know, he was right. This has turned out to be one of the most important days in the history of our country. God bless you and God bless America. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
So there you have it, President Trump in the Rose Garden at the White House on what he has dubbed Liberation Day when it comes to the economy.
Look, I will say this much, okay? The markets might be screaming at this moment, but ultimately, that's not the most reliable metric for seeing the damage that this will do. But what's important to understand here is what will most likely happen to U.S. trade, and specifically the cost of goods. The cost of goods is going to go up a lot. A better indication of how you experience the economy will be inflation.
President Trump says that the tariffs in the long run will create more jobs in the United States and revive certain manufacturing sectors and even entire regions by forcing companies to relocate their manufacturing to the United States, in some cases back to the United States. It is a gamble and it is risky. Some Republican lawmakers are not sold.
In the long run, we're all dead. Short run matters too.
Bro, I'm sorry, but the liberal media is so cucked by Donald Trump. If Joe Brandon did something like this, they would be calling to assassinate him. But when it's Trump doing it, they're like, well, it's a risky gamble. I hate the media,
Let's go straight.
dude. Once again, I'm jealous. I'm jealous of Trump's riz. I'm jealous that he's able to do this. I like this. Trump's tariffs. What just happened?
But finally, we got the detail on what Donald Trump meant by this Liberation Day. And let me just kind of start by showing you these bars are how high those tariffs, the US tariffs, are on various different countries around the world at the moment, or rather before Donald Trump came into office, and a quick kind of bit of revision on where we've come from so far. So threatened tariffs on Mexico and Canada. They were repeatedly threatened, repeatedly rescinded or lifted, but they might well be back again, who knows. But for the time being, they're
50% tariffs on the roughly 6,000 people who live in St. Pierre and Miquelon. Yeah, St. Pierre and Miquelon have been cooking us for far too long. It's time. It's Jover. We have to punish them. Their endless thirst for super profits knows no bounds. It's time to drop the act. The British Indian Ocean Territory is getting a 10% tariff. It's uninhabited and only has a U.S. military base. Yes, they didn't say thank you hard enough.
Gone. We know we got an extra 10% tariffs on China, China 1.0, then another extra 10% tariffs on China 2.0.
The herd in McDonald's Islands are completely uninhabited. Population 0. Guess we're going to tariff the seagulls. It kind of feels like a White House intern went through Wikipedia's list of countries and just generated a list off of that with no further research. Pictured, the place which is, according to the Trump White House, apparently imposing 10% tariff on the United States. Note the total lack of any human settlements there. One of my favorite parts about the Trump administration always is like they have the energy of me during finals at school, where it just everything feels haphazard and slapped together last second. It's like they've been talking about implementing these tariffs for months now. Donald Trump said he was going to do it the entire time for like a year before he even before the election, right? Before the actual election day, he was like, tariffs is my favorite word. And it's like, now the time has come. He set himself, he set this hard deadline on himself. And even then they're working round the clock. They're up late night trying to figure out these tariffs. It's like, this isn't some bullshit class that you took in college to get an easy A to beef up your overall grade. Okay. This is the global economy. This is the entirety of the American economy. The entire principle behind like, this is all the tariffs that they're charging us, by the way, is completely made up. It's completely made up. You might think, no way, dude. The administration is going to make a bold declarative statement that undermines the way that the global economy has been designed for the past multiple decades. There's no shot that they would just like ask an AI chatbot to develop numbers. And the answer to that is yes, they will do that. And I think they did do that. Like China imposing tariffs to the United States at 67% is not correct. It's just a lie. How did they arrive at that number? They arrived at that number because they made it up. They fucking made it up. What do they mean by this? Trump assumes VAT, like value-added tax, is a tariff. And as long as you claim anything and everything is a tariff, like domestic tax decisions that are implemented by sovereign nations, formerly sovereign nations, are now considered a tariff on American goods. It's not a tariff. The value-added tax is not added on to just American goods. It's added on to everything by sector. Sometimes by whatever the good is or whatever the service is, whatever the thing that you're purchasing is, regardless of its nation of origin, whether it's produced domestically or produced overseas, it does not matter. And that's why the fine print says tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers.
Let's just start. There are two parts to this. Okay, so first of all, there is going to be a 10% baseline tariff. So you see all of these bars go up by 10%, including, of course, the UK. But that, as far as the White House is concerned, is just a baseline. And then on top of that, there are different tariffs for different nations, what they call reciprocal tariffs. And they say they've gone through the numbers. They've looked at not just the tariffs that other countries around the world are charging the US, but also what they call non-tariff barriers, so other things. And they've worked out, by the way, Canada, those Mexico-Canada tariffs might well come back, so we might well start from that position. But reciprocal tariffs might push all of these bars, or will push all of these bars up considerably higher. So just look at how the picture of trade and tariffs in the US has changed dramatically as a result of these measures which are coming in the next few days. And just to give you a few highlights of what we're talking about, so you could look, for instance, over there at China. So China, that's a 34% reciprocal tariff, but it takes the total amount, provided that goes on top of the existing tariff, it takes the total amount up above 50%. And you're talking, when tariffs are going above 50%, that makes any trade very, very difficult and far less likely to happen.
Oh my God, I thought that was a joke. I thought when one of the chatters said the U.S. government classifies Quebec's Bill 96 as a foreign trade barrier, I thought you were joking. Oh my God. U.S. government classifies Quebec's Bill 96 as a foreign trade barrier. Oh, it's so funny that America is trying to dominate the world by trade, and I feel like this will blow up in America's face. Like, what do you mean? Other countries are not allowed to impose any sort of domestic agenda that we decide is not good. This is like claiming that DEI initiatives implemented in like another sovereign nation is now being considered a trade barrier. Like accessibility is now considered a trade barrier. You have to eradicate it. This is America wielding its trade power as the consumption engine of the planet in a way to dominate other countries and whatever the fuck they're doing. It is so crazy. Yeah, you can't speak French in Quebec. Sorry, that's a trade barrier. Quebec, merde. Dow Jones getting decimated. Dow futures tumble more than 700 points. S&P 500 futures lose 3% on Trump's tariff rollout. That's why he said, don't look at the markets. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't look at the markets. For as long as it's red, don't look at it. When it's green again, we can look at it. As I was saying, the market dipping didn't matter and claimed it's the price of goods and that people will care about. I mean, he's not wrong about that statement. It's just that if he assumes that the tariffs are going to lower prices on he is insanely wrong on that. But then again, it doesn't matter because he's just defending Trump. And that's what people want to hear. They don't want to hear analysis. They don't want to hear what will actually happen. They don't want to hear what is currently happening. They just want to hear someone go, Trump is based. That's what most people want. And there are liberals that also, when Kamala Harris was running and when Joe Biden was president, there were liberals who wanted to hear that too. I, unfortunately, never give that to them. I don't give the liberals what they want when liberals are in charge, and I certainly don't give the conservatives what they want when they're in charge, which is precisely the reason why so many people develop resentments towards me, even if they arrive at my position far too late. Like if I was a squishy lib who just wanted to give liberals everything that they want to hear, then I would be talking about how Cory Booker is amazing. That's why I'm saying I'm the one true king, if you will, the one true apolitical king, the real apolitics.
But the point that Donald Trump wants to make is that back in a long time ago, the majority of federal revenues came from tariffs, raising money from tariffs. And right now that line is basically down, close to zero, kind of only a few percent. And his point is always, rather than raising money through income tax, couldn't we raise it again through tariffs? And I'll spare you the next charts, but point out that ultimately that is really, really tough to do. It's really tough in the modern world of 2025 when you have, welfare states, when you have Medicare, when you have, standing armies that are quite expensive.
It's so funny to look at tariffs as a percentage of total federal revenues and try to bring it back to like the 1800s because global trade does not look the same. Me not being an economist, the de minimis loophole closing is the one thing I'm in favor of. No, they're destroying Temu, Shein. They're destroying the MAGA merch economy. That is one thing that I predicted and laughed about quite a bit. Be on the lookout for a CNN spot with that blonde reporter with the glasses that used to work at Vice. She will go back to those, I'm calling it now, she will go back to those MAGA merch stores and she will talk to them in a couple months, and they will be screaming bloody murder about how Donald Trump ruined their fucking business model. Ellie Reeves, yeah. Ellie Reeves will straight face ask them, Donald Trump destroyed your business prospects by making dropshipping functionally illegal. Do you regret voting for him? And they will dead ass wipe their fucking tears and go, no, that's my glorious president. He's going to make America great. I still believe him. I think one of the biggest ironies here is that this is the one thing that will cause Americans to rise up and take up arms against the current administration, no matter who is running the show. Even Donald Trump, who is a cult, right? You cannot touch America's treats. Treats have to be affordable and accessible. That is the one thing that you cannot touch. And this actually touches the treats. JD Pondon says treat rights will suffer. Permanent first world genocide, says JD Pondon. No more treats. The suburbs will cry tears of blood. That's what he's doing.
I was reading this morning that apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal, some people in the business community and on Wall Street are still banking on the idea that the White House might actually pull back on the tariffs if something bad happens to the economy. And I know Goldman Sachs.
I love this, dude. All of America's wealthiest capital owners are sitting around biting their nails at the whims of seemingly a madman. It's awesome. Oh, he's not serious, you guys. He was just memeing. He was just joking. I think, right? You're joking, right? It's hard. It's hard for me not to look at this and laugh a little bit. I mean, it's sad because, as I've said time and time again, in the stock market, the gains are privatized and the losses are socialized. So when the stock market is up, you're not going to feel it, but when it's down, you certainly will feel it. And it is down, or it's been down for sure. So I have chatters talking about how like their 401ks are just like getting gutted in the process. Yeah, everything will get more expensive. Every single thing will get more expensive, for the record. Every single thing that you're purchasing will get more expensive as a consequence of this. That is if these are fully implemented. The reason why I say that is if these are fully implemented is because there is one thing that Trump cares about, and that is retaliation, okay? Being unpopular. If the market screams bloody murder and the people are properly terrified of the price increases that are slated to happen, and they rise up in arms potentially, then Trump might back away from it. He is unstable. He's already went back and forth on this shit. He might just like delay the tariffs or whatever. So who knows? If he were to implement a stimulus check in this process, by the way, if he were to hit stimmies on this, I need you to understand something. If he were to also give stimmies on this is full Erdogan. If he were to expand the welfare state as a reaction to this, it would quite literally be the Erdogan initiative. Hyperinflation with a little bit of money that you're offering to the citizens in an effort to make sure that they don't die. This is what sedates the masses. This. Do you understand? And this is an old ass, this is from 2016. It's even worse now. This is what I mean when I say treats. All that is relatively affordable. So you think, oh, I can go to a McDonald's. I can get a new household furnishing. I can get a new clothes because it's cheap. And it makes you feel like you are better off. And that is the very fabric that holds American society together. The moment that these things also skyrocket in prices, you have nothing. You have nothing holding it together. You have nothing holding society together. You're like, this is what good is this? What good is this project if I can't get a fucking new iPad? What good is all this endless bloodshed in the third world? This is what I mean. Trump is anti-Semitically imposing tariffs on Israel. Trump is anti-Semitically doing BDS. Who is going... Okay, Forward Magazine article, I'm imagining. Title, Trump stood against boycott, divestments, and sanctions. Now he does the very same. Subtitle, is Trump Hamas? I mean, here's what Ryan Grimm is saying, right? And this is correct. North America could genuinely be self-sufficient, though it might take us like 10 years to get there, and would be a brutal transition, but it would be a good thing in the end. Hard to see the U.S. do it solo without a huge collapse in standard of living. But anyway, Trump seems to expect us to do it in a few days. Good luck to us. Every country has no country can be fully self-sufficient. I don't know why Ryan Grimm is a Jushaist. Ryan Grimm is upholding the immortal science of Marxist-Leninist Jushaism, which I don't agree with. I don't even think it's necessarily a good thing to be entirely self-sufficient. I think it's fine to offshore certain products, or there's obviously not, like, what do you do with rubber? You know what I mean? What are you supposed to do? Invent it? And this is why he says North America and not the United States of America, because he's talking about Mexico and Canada as well. But even then, I think ultimately not all matter of international trade is bad. But in the short term, I don't think Americans that only care about treats and the cost of living in general will allow this kind of market shock to go on without severe repercussions. Because, as I've said, it's the only thing that holds the American society together. There's also the other side of this, which is, how are we certain that this will boost domestic manufacturing, not even in a short time frame, but in any time frame whatsoever? And how will that be beneficial for American labor in general? Because let's say you bring back manufacturing, but now Americans are in an infinitely shittier position overall, and they're desperate to take on any job whatsoever. There's no curbing back on a lot of the big ticket items that Americans must purchase for upward social mobility or services that they must hire for upward social mobility or healthcare, right? Or housing, shelter. If you don't fix any of those problems and you bring back manufacturing, people are in an incredibly desperate predicament where they'll go and work at these factories with diminished labor protections, with diminished worker protections. They still can't afford the treats that they want to afford. They're in a worse position overall. It's unsustainable. It's completely unsustainable, both in the short term and in the long term, especially when, so stupid, especially without trying to find a solution to the cost of living crisis for all of the important necessities, all the important things that you need, goods and services that you need for survival, upward social mobility, and things like that. And if the manufacturing capabilities of America is boosted, and yet it doesn't actually yield better labor protections or higher wages in general, and it's just mostly automated manufacturing anyway, and the labor force that still works is working in worse conditions overall, then that's not a benefit to the American economy.